Welcome to Real Coaching Radio, the podcast for coaches by coaches. We are here to teach you how to get the most out of your clients and yourself. This is where beauty meets the beast, brains meet brawn, and science meets, well, bro science. Welcome to Real Coaching Radio. Beautiful people. My name's Charlie. I am the brawn, the bro science, the beauty, and today me and my much bigger, my much smarter co-host are going to be discussing all things goal settings. The do's, the don'ts, the yes and the no's, the ins, the outs, the ups, the downs, how to approach this daunting task. If you don't already, come and interact with us on Instagram at Mark Origin Series or at Hack the Body, Hack the Mind. Without any further ado, let's begin the show. Coming into 2021, new year, in January, people obviously go around setting goals for themselves, setting goals, if you're a trainer, setting goals for clients. So us as coaches and you, how would you go around, I guess, setting goals for yourself, setting goals for clients, and like, what's the best approach? Because I feel like a lot of people can get confused, a lot of people can get lost when doing this. I know I did in the past, I still kind of do sometimes. So for you, what's the best approach going into kind of setting goals for yourself and for clients?
Yeah, so I would say, like, if we take January 2021 as an example, kind of based off what you've just said there, like one of the first things that people do wrong initially is they probably wait until January to set their goals. And, you know, it's kind of, people have this attachment to specific dates and times that they want to start. And, you know, whether that's right or wrong, that can be like another discussion for another time maybe. But so for me personally, you know, if I was to say, like, all right, I want to start this on, let's say the 1st of January, 2021, I'd kind of want to be thinking about setting my goals maybe sort of mid towards the end of December. So maybe use some of that Christmas period to think about what I want to do for next year and have everything set up and ready to go so that on January 1st I can start and I'm ready to start and I'm prepared to start. So like unlike New Year's Eve, I'm like, right, tomorrow everything is set up ready for me to attack my goals and work on what I want to do, rather than waiting till January the 1st to start doing that sort of stuff. Because people, like I said, people have this attachment to a specific date, and if they wait until January the 1st to do that, so for an example, January the 1st this year was a Friday. So if people wait until Friday to set their goals, they'll set it over the weekend and then they'll say, right, I'll start on Monday, which is the 4th. But that's another 3 days where you've lost an opportunity to work towards your goals.
I genuinely know people who, because obviously January as well, like a lot of people do dry Jan. And I know people who like dry Jan not drinking, but they won't start till the 4th because you have a bank holiday weekend, and they're like, well, I got to make the most of this weekend. But for me, that just removes the whole point of it. Like, you're kind of just, it's again another excuse, another reason why not to.
Yeah, it's like, it's completely counterintuitive to what they say that they wanna achieve. And like, the thing is, like, if nothing changes, nothing is going to change. So if you just wait until, you know, so it's, again, like, take this one as an example. Like, if that Monday was a bank holiday, people are like, oh, I'll start on Tuesday. Then they're like, oh, Tuesday's not really like a proper week because it's not the start of the week. So they're just like, oh, I'll start the next Monday. And before you know it, like, you're in the middle of January and people haven't done anything, and that's 2 weeks gone.
Yeah, but that's the problem as well, because then I genuinely think part of the problem when it comes to goal setting is, and like, this is what I say to clients, is it's all up to how much you want it. Because a lot of times, like, we have these kind of things where we go, oh, well, I could probably stop eating chocolate, or I could probably stop doing these. And I think, like, they know inside, like, for me, for example, I know for a fact the only time I'm ever going to, like, really focus on my diet is when I truly want to. And I think that's part of the problem, is that, like, there's so many excuses that can be used. And I think a lot of people do use those excuses. And is there a way, I guess, with an approach on how to set yourself up so you don't fail? Or is there a way, or does it come down to you've just got to want it bad enough and then the approach will come in after.
Yeah, I think so there's a conversation that I have with not every client, but with some clients. So this works from like a coaching perspective, but also, if you want to do this as an individual, and it's exactly what you've just said. You've kind of got to figure out like, do you actually want it? And then there's kind of levels to that in terms of like, how much do you want it? And you then got to have an honest conversation with yourself, and kind of, if you don't really want it at that moment in time, you've got to understand that like that's still okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to not want it, and that is absolutely fine. Like, I think some of the stuff that we see like in the fitness industry and social media and advertisement, that kind of stuff is all this, let you say, like dry January and stuff leading into summer, people wanting to take control of what their body looks like for holidays and that kind of things. It's, are you doing it for the wrong reasons? Are you doing it because there's peer pressure from elsewhere, there's peer pressure from somebody else, or you've seen one of your friends achieve results and then you're just like, oh, I want some of that. But do you actually want some of that? And if you don't want that, like that is still okay. There's probably other areas of your life that you can potentially improve. So I think there's two things that people need to figure out first of all before they start looking at goals, is having an honest conversation of being like, do I want it? Am I ready for this? Like, I've had clients in the past where I've worked with them for a small number of weeks and they haven't really got anywhere, and then we've had like a bit of a conversation, just said it's probably just not the right time for them. So there's other stuff going on in their life, and like, that's not an excuse in terms of they're just putting it off. It's a genuine reason that it's not the right time for them, because if they're in the wrong place for you to start setting goals, all you're doing with clients and all you're doing with yourself is you're adding an additional stress to your life that doesn't need to be there. And then once you've figured out if you want it, I think the other thing that people need to realize is, and start to figure out, is why do you actually want it?
So that's kind of, so I've had clients who like deal with such bad anxiety, and they've got like these self-esteem issues from their body image, and so for them they're like, well, I've got to sort this out. But again, like you say, they just add extra stress to them, and they don't need it. Like, you don't need that extra stress. You could really do without it. Because of things like social media and, like you say, advertisement. Like, whoa, it's what we should be doing. Like, we think we should be doing this, and yeah. So if you're not in the right time, if you're not in the right place, and this doesn't just go for like fitness either. It goes for all types of goals, because you've got to be really ready to commit to whatever it is, the goal you're going to set. And that could be a diet goal, that could be a fitness goal, that could be like an education goal. So you choose to change jobs, and you go and you do like a course, and you're starting a new course. Is it the right time to do it? And I think that's definitely a good point. Yeah,
absolutely. And then I think in terms of how people go about setting their goals once they've figured that stuff out, in terms of, right, this is what I want to do. This is the deep meaning behind why I want to do it. Because if you've got that deep meaning behind why you want to do it, you are probably more likely to work towards it. And then I think if you've got all that lined up and you've got all that sort of like ready to go and you're ready to work towards goals, I think one of the biggest things people focus on initially, which is the first hurdle that they almost kind of like set themselves up for failure, is they straight away focus on the outcome. So they straight away focus on, so like in 6 months' time, this is what I want to achieve. So whether that be, I'm going to lose X amount of weight, or I'm going to quit smoking, or whatever it might be, like they focus specifically on that outcome. And then some people, unless they have like help from a good quality coach, they almost go at it blindly, hoping that in 6 months' time they're in this place.
They're going to be there.
Yeah, and we probably know that realistically that's not really going to happen. So one of the things that people talk about a lot is SMART goal setting. And I think SMART goal setting is good to a certain extent, but it does have its flaws. So towards the end of last year, I was reading a book by James Clear called Atomic Habits, which I think is quite a popular book. I think a lot of people have probably read that book by now. But one of the good things that he really talks about is how to set up habits for yourself to start achieving goals. And there are kind of like two processes. So you can start with the outcome, but more likely than not, I think if people start with the outcome, they lose their way a little bit and they don't really achieve their goals. Whereas there's kind of like a 3-step process. And the first thing you want to start with is start setting some like identity-based goals.
Right.
And what we mean by like identity-based goals is this self-belief of kind of like who you are. So as an example, like if you went out drinking with a friends, or had a meal with friends or whatever, which I know we can't really do at the moment because everybody's in lockdown, but if you're in that scenario and you're trying to quit smoking as an example, and somebody offers you a cigarette, some people might say, oh, I'm trying to quit. So in their mind straight away, they're just like, they're still in this working process. Whereas if you turned around and said, oh, I don't smoke, like that's a very different mindset to have. And I know that's going to be difficult for some people to start to get their head around, because if they've, like, as an example, if they've been a smoker for such a long period of time, then all of a sudden they're now giving themselves this label and this belief of I'm not a smoker. They might feel like a bit of a fraud. I do get that. But if you start to change the way that you believe about yourself, so as an example, like if you're trying to lose weight, like, and if you went to a supermarket, and rather than thinking, oh, well, what have I got to choose to like help achieve my diet or whatever, this, that, and the other, like try and start thinking about, well, so what would a healthy person eat? What would a healthy person choose? And then like you kind of become that healthy person.
I think the identity thing's massive though, because I've had clients who are like they're kind of party goers as such. They're big, go out drinking, go out smoking, and they're big into that. And that becomes their identity almost, and people see them as that. You will have to almost like a snake shedding skin almost. You do have to almost shed your skin to be able to kind of grow forward. But a lot of times the things that happen is around you as well. I feel like if you are going to make these changes, you are going to make these decisions that you're going to be healthier, you're going to quit smoking, is you need to like really explain to people around you why you're doing it as well. Because once you've worked out like what you want to do, what you want to achieve, once you spoke to people and said like, right, I want to achieve this goal, can you help me? You won't get what happens a lot of time, which is, say you're trying to lose weight and you're at a family party and someone brings around dessert and you pass up on the dessert, and then you get this peer pressure come in from everyone, like, you never pass up on dessert. And you're this kind of like identity and ego we have of ourselves, of like, oh, I am this person, like I am the smoker, I am that can be difficult from
and it's kind of like, it's hard to shake, because like if you take the scenario of just if you were a person who was known to be like a bit of a wreckhead, and like every time people went out you were the person that got absolutely wasted and got absolutely smashed, then all of a sudden you became this person who kind of just didn't do that. Like it's hard to shake that. People label you as like, they know they know you're going to end up wasted until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And then it is difficult to shake that. And then also you're right in terms of people need a good quality support network around them. So exactly that, like they need to explain to their friends and their family, like, this is what I want to do. This is why I want to do it. And this is important to me. And I kind of need help and support with that, because I've had clients in the past who have kind of, they're on this weight loss journey, or they're on this fitness journey, and take weight loss as an example. And they've had a tough week. They've had stuff going on at work, and they've had like, life has all its other stresses along with trying to lose some weight. And then people get towards the end of the week and they've had a really stressful week, and their partner, as an example, sees that they've had a stressful week. And to try and remove some of that stress, to just like, oh, let's just get a pizza and a load of chocolate and like sit and watch a film and have a good time, and it's really comforting. But like that's quite damaging for somebody who's really trying to work towards their goals, because that's potentially who they used to be. Like they used to use that as a coping mechanism to get rid of stress. Whereas they need more support from their partner now, and they need more support from their friends and family. And then also another thing I would advise that people do is like, if they can get into a gym, again, like I said, gyms are closed at the moment, but whether it be Facebook groups or whatever, like if you go to exercise classes and you start mingling with people who are, they're working on the, or they maybe have the habits that you're looking to try and get.
Yeah.
You start mixing with those circles, like you'll kind of become those people. I mean, there's that saying of like, you become the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time around or something. So like, if you spend time with like these people who have these habits, you're more likely to succeed.
That's the thing, and because when you speak to someone, like if you're someone who smokes weed, and you hang around with people who smoke weed, then to you smoking weed's really normal. For if you go to the pub after work every day, then all the people you're at the pub with going to the pub every day after work is normal. Same as like that's like in a negative sense, but in a positive sense, the same thing goes from like when you surround yourself with people who are driven, or you surround yourself with people who are trying to get in better shape, and like the gym thing's really important. And what I'd say is find a gym and find a community that really is for the members and for each other, because if you've got a community and if you've got a community in a gym, and that community is full of people all working towards the same goal, like it's going to be almost impossible not to kind of jump on the bandwagon and jump on with them and kind of follow them with that journey. And finding these different people that can help you along this journey is really important, because it's really difficult. I mean, what is it? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Like, same thing comes to like who you spend your time with, what you spend your time doing. If you don't put your focus and put your efforts into spending time with people who have a similar goal and similar mindset as you, as well as doing the things you need to do to achieve that goal and mindset, then you are only just going to be holding yourself back by your environment. So environment is definitely important.
Yeah, environment is massive. Like, and I'm a big believer in that. Like, you've got to be in the right environment. Like, if I'm going to try and do work and that kind of stuff, I prefer working in like a real tidy environment, because I know that I'm way more productive in that area. So I think environment is massive. And like I said earlier, like you're right. Like if nothing changes, nothing is going to change. So people have got to understand that there's an element to setting goals where there's going to be a time period where you're going to experience some adversity. Like, it's going to be hard, it's going to be difficult. But then if you can get past that, then that's when real success kind of starts to happen again. Like in this Atomic Habits book, James Clear talks about like an ice cube scenario. So like if you take an ice cube and you stick an ice cube in a room that's like -10, like the ice cube's in this form of ice, and then you drop the temperature to like -9, nothing happens to the ice cube. It's still frozen. You take it to -8, it's still frozen. You take it to -5, -4, -3, like this ice cube's still frozen. But the temperature in the room is changing, but nothing is happening to the ice cube. As soon as you tip like above freezing, it starts to melt. So whereas if people take that into like their habits and the way that they approach their goal setting, like they're going to have to work on small little habits, and these small little habits individually might be quite insignificant, and they might not do nothing, and they might go week 1, they're starting to change their environment, they're starting to change their habits, but nothing's happening. Week 2, they're changing more, but nothing's happening. Week 3, they're changing more, that nothing's happening. And then usually people get to this point where, they're on the verge of seeing some real big changes, but they've been going at this for 4 or 5 weeks now and not really seeing the results that they were maybe wanting to see. So they give up. And it's at that real critical point where you've got to ride it out. You've got to go through this adverse period to get to the other side. So I think people need to have it into their minds. It's just like, right, I'm going to experience some adversity at times. Like, this is setting goals and changing your life and achieving results is never an easy thing to do. Like, no. It's hard.
I find one of the things that you get, like the ice cube scenario, if you are going to be setting yourself like up for success almost, these small habits and these small changes that you create throughout your life are very important. And I have clients who say, I'm someone who is all or nothing. So I'm either all in or all out. Now, that can be reasonably good in the sense of, okay, like you can go on a diet and you can lose weight, but if you're all in or all out, then that means that you're not going to be in all the time. You're not going to be doing this diet the whole time. At some point, you're going to come out. And if you're all in, then you're real strict. If you're all out, then you're going the opposite way. And that ain't good. So you've got to find a way to be able to not just be all in or all out. You've got to be able to find a way to almost like coast as such in this position of, I'm doing things for myself that I know are good for me and I know that are going to help me achieve my goal. And you need to be, like you say, be consistent and push through the times where you feel like you're not getting any progress, because progress, when it comes to goal settings, if you do have an outcome based kind of approach where you're looking at the outcome, then if you don't reach that outcome, or if you're not working towards that, on if it is a body fat percentage wise and you're not losing body fat, then in your mind you're not progressing. Yet like this week your diet has been so much better compared to last week. Like, are you still not progressing? Of course you're progressing. Same as like if you step on the scales and the scales don't change, but in 8 weeks time, 12 weeks time, your body compositions change a little bit and you look at yourself differently and you like the way you're looking, the scales don't matter. So if it's how you measure that progress and how you measure that approach, I think could be really important as well.
Yeah, so that like that all in, all out mentality is kind of I see that a lot, and I get that a lot from clients. They're just like, yeah, I'm all in. I'm 100% going to do this. And there are some people who are like that, and there are some people who can do that. And the reality is, most of them are high level competitive bodybuilders just because they work like machines. Whereas outside of that, like that area, like general population, people who are just trying to not achieve standing on a bodybuilding stage, they might tell you that they're 100% all in and all out. But like you say, like if you're 100% in, like when you're not in, like what are you doing?
What are you doing?
And some people will come to you and say, I'm 100% all in, when their motivation is really high. So take like the 1st of January as an example. They're just like, right, I think like we had a conversation of the week and like you said, loads of people who said, right, 2021 is my year.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just like as from a coach's point of view, like you don't want to just like cut that with clients straight away. Like you want to use that because like that's good motivation. But we all know that like motivation is quite short lived. And in reality, it's discipline that's going to get us further than motivation. And one of the things I like to try and do with clients, and well, it's probably one thing I need to get better at doing with myself, really. But I do, it's that classic scenario of kind of like do as I say and not as I do, really. Like so, but is taking like this small habits based approach in terms of, because let's say you have got everything set up and you're ready to go on the 1st of January and you've got everything ready. So you wake up the 1st of January and you're just like, right, this is it. I'm starting now. It's go time. And you've set yourself expectations, or you've set your things that are to a certain extent like on the verge of being achievable. Like you might be able to do them for 3 or 4 days because your motivation is still quite high. But what's going to happen when scenarios come up where you've set this thing that you want to try and achieve on a daily basis, and something's come up with your kids, or something's come up with work, or whatever it might be, something's come up at home, there's a leak or whatever, and all of a sudden it throws this thing that you set as a habit to try and achieve out the window, and then you're 5 days in and you're experiencing failure. And I think for most of the general population, they shouldn't be experiencing that to begin with, unless if you're wanting to go into like professional sport and those kind of things, that's a very different scenario. But that's not what we're talking about here, and that's not what general population exercise is. So I like to try and take an approach, and it's trying to get people to understand this. It's difficult to get people to understand this. It's trying to set habits that are so achievable. It's almost like it's crazy.
Yeah.
So it's just like, just go for a walk for 5 minutes.
Yes.
Don't walk for an hour.
No, that is my thing. It's the classic. How many times a week can you go to the gym? I can go 6 days. Okay, let's start with 2, because you can, like, if you're going the beast mode and all in approach is very, like you said, it's very short lived. Building up these small habits and having really achievable habits that you can do on a daily basis is the best thing you can do. Setting yourself up for success is really probably the best thing you can do. And one of the things you've said before is contingency plans. What are you going to do in this scenario? And try and ask yourself it. Like, try put yourself in that place to kind of say, like, if I want to go to the gym every Wednesday night, yet on Wednesday I get a phone call from like one of my friends and saying, should we go for food tonight? what do you just do in that scenario? You've said you're going to go to the gym every Wednesday. Now, is that a case of you going, well, I stick with my commitments because I'm a committed person and I've said I'm going to go to the gym. It's a promise that I've made to myself and I'm going to keep that promise. Or are you going to say, well, I will go and have food, but I'll make sure I go tomorrow. But what happens, like, I think we give, we're all bad at this, but I think we give our future selves a lot more credit because we just, I'll get the fuel tomorrow, or I will do that tomorrow, and my future self is going to be a lot better than I am today. That approach is going to be the reason why you turn down going to the gym on Wednesday and you end up not going for the rest of the week, because there's always something else, there's always something better. So contingency plans is another thing.
Yeah. That is one thing I get a lot of clients to do in terms of, especially around nutrition. It's kind of like, right, so this is our plan. This is how we're moving forward, blah, 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 X, Y, Z. Now what we're going to do is I want you to make a list of literally every possible thing that could ever go wrong on any given day. From like, I've left the house without my prepped meals to I've been abducted by aliens, and everything else in between. So like, make a list of anything that could possibly go wrong on any given day at any point in your life. And then in the next column, what are you going to do when that happens? So as an example, if I have a client who has to travel a lot with work and they spend a lot of time in the car, like, there's a large possibility that at some point they're going to get stuck on the motorway. So, and if people get stuck on the motorway and they don't have their food with them, like, the chances are they're going to get hungry. And then they start to, when they get to a service station, they make emotional choices. And when they make emotional choices, they don't make the right choice. So can they, in the boot of their car, whether it be they keep some protein bars, they keep some fruit, obviously fruit's going to need to be replaced more often than like a protein bar in terms of like how long it's going to like stay there without getting rotten. Can they keep a couple of bottles of water? So can they have, like, yeah, okay, that's not a meal. That's not a substantial meal, but it could tie them over. They could eat that, continue on some of their journey, find like a supermarket. By the time they get to the supermarket, they're not as hungry, and they can make a more rational decision.
They say don't go shopping like on an empty stomach
when you're hungry. Yeah,
because
don't go shopping without a list, because you just buy everything.
As a recap for the approach, small habits.
Yeah, massively. Like, so small, but not just small, but like small, like real achievable habits.
So literally, if, for example, say you, like we've said, say you haven't, like, you don't go for walks and you work in a desk job. Every time you have lunch, you go for a 5-minute walk, you go for a 10-minute walk. That's really achievable. That's really something you can do. So having something like that, obviously, before that, you need to understand your why you're doing it, and like who you are to be able to achieve this goal. You then have the support system. So a support system of your friends and family around you, or people in work. So like they know that this is really important to you, and they know that the momentary satisfaction of you having that like cookie or having that donut compared to the long-term satisfaction and the feeling you're going to get when you actually achieve your goal, when you've set out to do something and you're actually going to achieve it. So a support system is really important.
Yep.
You need to understand that change is going to be a big thing as well, that you are going to go through this changing period, and you need to accept that quite a bit. And then when it comes to contingency plans, very important is to, what am I going to do in this situation? Don't set yourself up for failure. Set yourself up for success. So in every opportunity, you understand that if something goes wrong, well, this is what I'm going to do. And you come up with a solution-based approach, and don't just sit there creating problems. You give yourself the solution to that. Is there anything else?
I would say, like, probably, and just the other major key thing I would maybe get some people to do, and this is something I did at the start of this year, was, in fact, I did it at the end of December, to be fair. So again, like, goes back to what we said about getting ready before you're actually ready to start. I did like an accountability post on social media. It's like trying to make myself accountable. So I put a list up on my Instagram story of just like, throughout January, these are the things I'm going to do. So it's kind of like, you know, it's not there so people can do it, but it's almost like, well, I put this on social media now, and I said, like, I'm going to do this. So if I post a picture of me eating pizza on a Tuesday, just like, well, someone's going to call me out on that. And it kind of makes me accountable to not want to do it.
Yeah, I think that's accountability is so huge because a lot of times it's so easy. It like this is why to me a really important why is so important is because, and if you don't have that, it's fine. And that's the problem because it sometimes like it, for example, like say you have high blood pressure, like you've got a really good reason why you've got to kind of change your habits. But say, for example, it's just because you want to look a little bit better, then that accountability, if you can't do it from yourself, then yeah, accountability is huge. I think, is there anything you'd avoid? Because that's something as well that I think about, like, when it comes to goal setting, I guess avoiding the outcome-based approach can be a good thing because, or at least understand that if you've got an outcome, like based approach, what are something smaller, what's going to get you there, and focus on what will get you there rather than...
So like you can take the outcome and by all means have like this outcome based approach to a certain extent, like take that and be like, this is what I want to achieve, and then basically reverse engineer it. I'm like, right, so this is where I want to be in 6 months. What do I have to do on a daily basis that's going to get me towards that goal in 6 months? So like work backwards. So right, this is where I want to be in 6 months' time. This is where I need to be. So for me to get that, this is where I need to be in 3 months' time. For me to get that, this is where I need to be in 1 month time. For me to achieve that, this is what I need to be doing every day between now and then. And I think the only other thing I would say, it's just laboring on a point we have said, is like when it comes to setting the habits for yourself that you are going to set on a daily basis, and they don't even necessarily need to be on a daily basis. It could be like, right, I'm gonna walk 5 out of 7 days, as opposed to I'm gonna walk 7 days. But like the habits that you set yourself, like make them so easy that they're so easy to achieve, because as soon as they're too far out of reach, as we said earlier, like people will come up with some excuses or something else will come up, and then they'll start to fall off the wagon. Like they experience like this negative failure experience, and then that's a sliding scale to not achieving your goals. So making sure that your habits are really, really really achievable, like almost too achievable to a certain extent.
I think following on from that, one of the things that people do, and this is something that I definitely avoid, stop looking at your week as a 5-day week. Look at it as the 7 days, because a lot of times the week, like this is something that I've said to people who, if it is a diet thing, or if it is the Monday to Friday, we're all real strict, right? And then Saturday is when you overindulge on food, or you don't go to the gym, or you don't go for these walks, and you kind of just like, you almost like, well, I'm relaxing, this is my relaxing time. My genuine advice was, if you're going to have that day, if you're going to have a time, if it is diet wise and you're going to kind of go a little bit off plan, say, then make that be a midweek thing. And the reason I say that is because if you do it on a weekend, the likelihood is you're going to get up on Sunday and you're probably going to follow on that routine, because you don't have anything to break it up. If you don't have much to do on a weekend, then all you've got to do is continue down this almost like kind of bad path or wrong path. Whereas if it's a midweek thing and you just decide, right, on a Wednesday, I'm going to have a pizza on a Wednesday, or I'm going to have like a takeaway on a Wednesday, because chances are midweek you're probably going to go to the gym that morning anyway, or you're going to go to the gym the next day. So you're actually going to probably put things to more use. You're probably going to be doing a little bit more movement than you would maybe on a weekend. And try to understand that your week is a 7-day week. It's not just a 5-day week. The weekends is normally when we get our relaxing time. But when it comes to goal setting, when it comes to wanting to achieve something, if you're working 7 days a week compared to 5 days a week, like you're going to get there so much quicker. Is something that I see way too often.
Yeah, and I think what you've just said, like, proves everything that we've just spoken about, in terms of, you said, you know, people are probably way more strict on a Monday to Friday, and people are probably and that is right, but the reason people are probably way more strict on a Monday to Friday is because they have a routine. So to a certain extent, they have habits, and these habits are, I go to work at this time. and between 9 and 5 or whatever your working hours might be, I'm at work. And like, that's a habit.
And I do this and I do that. Yeah.
And then on a weekend, on a Saturday and Sunday, people don't have those habits in place. So that's where things start to go wrong. So one of the things I actually get some of my clients to do around nutrition is, let's say we've started like a good 4 to 6 weeks period, and I've got people to start tracking stuff, just really from an educational point of view, so they can understand how many calories are in food, what's going into their body, this, that, and the other. And then we start to move away from tracking a little bit so that they're not constantly tracking. Like, one of the first things I will do, which for some people is counterintuitive, and just like, right, we're now going to track Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but Monday to Thursday, we're not going to track. The reason I don't track on Monday to Thursday is because there's less chance of something going wrong, because they're in that routine at work. There's more chance of something going wrong Friday night when they go out with people from work, and then Saturday and Sunday when they're not at work. So I take those opportunities where things could go wrong, just like, right, we're going to track on these days, because that's going to keep you more accountable towards your goal, and it's going to make sure that we start to build some habits on those days where you don't have that structural routine of going to work.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's, so with everything said there, I think it gives anyone listening a good approach and good understanding of what to do going forward. Create these small habits, have a support system around you, create some contingency plans, and make yourself aware of why you're doing it and who you are going into this. Understand that the change is going to happen. Try to make sure that you can like avoid these kind of little pitfalls, almost avoid these things, like approaching your whole week as a week, approaching your goal as, what do I need to do to achieve it? What are these like little steps? Map it out. You're going to just be setting yourself up for success rather than failure.
Yep, absolutely.
From that then, your personal goals going into 2021, or your personal goals just at the moment?
So my personal goals at the moment are, 2020 was a bit of a crazy year for everybody. But like, you know, I had a baby, I opened the gym, I moved house. So 2021 was like, I was in lockdown. Like 2020, sorry, was a crazy year. And I probably got sucked into some bad habits with training, because I had so much going on. I was, to a certain extent, in the back of my mind, I was unsure when I was next going to be able to train because of everything that I had going on. But the reality is, I was always going to train every day because it's something that's so important to me. I make time for it, but I kind of like lost sight with some of that sort of stuff. And obviously, like, becoming a dad was like really new to me. I've never done that before, and like, that's a massive life change. Opening our first gym, like, that's a big change. So I got sucked into this habit of, when I was training, I was just trying to like kill myself in the gym, to be honest, because I never knew when my next session was going to be. So I tried to get the most out of that session, even though I know, like, through my education, like that physiologically, like, that's not a good thing to do, and that's stuff that I don't advise clients to do. But you know, it's a habit that I fell into. So my habit for this year that I'm trying to work on in 2021 is focus, as a big emphasis on recovery for me, both from like a mobility and flexibility standpoint, but then also from like just general recovery from training. So that on sessions, so some sessions will be done at a mega low intensity, but that means that I know that on the sessions where, you know, I can hit it hard and I can push the envelope, like, I've got the energy to be able to do that.
Yeah, that is such an important point for people who do train themselves. Is if you've got a training plan, like, you don't have to achieve everything on that one session. You've got a number of days to achieve stuff. That, like, beast mode's not always the best.
Yeah, I think that's, you know, social media makes beast mode sound cool, but
It
like,
hurts.
yeah, beast mode hurts, and you can't beast mode every day.
No, you can't. So is that your main goal? Do you have anything else underlying with that?
So that is my main goal, but there's other things that branch off from that. Like, so the reason, like I said, I trained like last year really hard. The intensity was really high, but that had a knock-on effect to other stuff in my life. So I'd got home and I was tired. I wasn't as productive as I would have liked to have been in some areas of my work. So whereas for me now, like, if I can really focus on my recovery within training, because I'm not going to stop training, because training is really, really important to me. But if I can focus more and emphasize on recovery, it means that I can be more effective and I can be smarter in my sessions, but it also leaves me energy to be able to like help Kate more, do more with Kobe, be more productive whenever I'm doing work. So although that recovery area is my main goal, I know that it's probably going to have a positive impact on other areas of my life.
Like you said, it's just it's these habits. It's changing the way you approach things, and whether that is your training, whatever that may be, like changing these habits is very important. And
Yep.
the recovery one's massive. I think, like you say, it will make your life easier in all different aspects.
Yeah, because last year, and it's back to some of a brief conversation that we had earlier in this chat, was like last year training, well, certainly towards the end of the year, like training for me started to become like a stress. Whereas realistically, training for me needs to become like a bit of a stress relief. And it's like, it's my time to clear my head. So that was the biggest light bulb moment for me. And that's just like, right, so something needs to change here.
That goes wrong. I get that with clients. Your body sees stress as a stress. So if you're going to be stressing out from all different angles, yeah, it's like approach for disaster. For me, I think this year is going to be a year of learning, and I want to try to basically build up as much knowledge as I can. I've said to you in the past, I almost explain it as like a warehouse approach, as you have this front of shop and you have all of these different products on sale, and you have a really good front of shop. And if no one knew, they'd think you had a massive warehouse full of all different things behind you. And I think that's what I want to do this year, is I have a really good front of shop when it comes to my education and things that I understand. And I think the knowledge that I do have is it's really beneficial for my clients. But for me, there is a lot of shelves out the back which I want to fill up with knowledge, with understanding of kind of myself, but as well as all things nutrition, training, understand a lot more about the body. There's so much that I want to understand this year. So for me, my biggest approach is learning. And to do that, I've decided I dedicate at least 2 hours of my day to learning. And whether that's watching kind of educational videos, whether that is reading, whatever that may be, I dedicate at least 2 hours of my day to that. And one of the ways I'm doing that is first thing in the morning and last thing at night. So last thing at night, I'm reading. First thing in the morning, I'm doing something for me, because that way I set my day up as it starts with me and it ends with me. If I'm the most important person, if I want to achieve these goals, then I'm starting it and I'm ending it with me. That is probably my main focus. And then after that, I think being more self-aware of how I act, and basically just being more honest with myself. Because I think a lot of times, following on from the knowledge thing, there's a lot of times where I think I maybe know more than I do, or I think I know less than I do. And being truly honest and not just kind of being aware of what I do know and using that and understanding that is probably my biggest thing.
Yeah, I think they're good points. Like, you said, like you're doing it for you, and like your day starts with you and it ends with you, and you are important. And I think a lot of people that might be listening to this, if they're looking to set some goals, like take that into consideration. Like, you are important, and like do this for you. And if that means, like you said earlier about, you're planning to go to the gym on a Wednesday night and your friend rings you and wants you to go for a meal, like say no. Like do it for you, like, because that is a form of like self-love, if you like, in terms of like, this is my time and I'm gonna be a bit selfish and I'm gonna do this for me.
Yep, I think they're all great points. So if you have enjoyed this, please subscribe to the podcast. If you want to find us, you can find us on Instagram at Mark Origin Series or at Charlie RJ Hacker. For any educational content you want, you can go to at origin_series_online or at Hack the Body, Hack the Mind. Find us there. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you on the next one. Hopefully this podcast has given you what you need to basically attack your goals and create goals for yourself and your clients. If it has, then please give us a 5-star rating and review. If you want to join the coaching world or enhance your education, please head to myptcourse.com. Thank you very much for tuning in. This has been Real Coaching Radio.